Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everyone. So, welcome to another episode of the Cathy Watchcast for Rings of Power. This is for episodes 5 and 6 that we just finished watching. What'd you think? What do you think, Ken Brown?
Shit went down.
Okay, so what do you think about the shit that went down?
There was a lot more fighting and action.
Yeah, we got some semi-answers on who people are.
What do you mean?
I guess we'll get to it. So, episode 5, I believe it's called Partings, according to Wikipedia here. Starts out with Nori and the Harfoots.
Yes.
They're continuing their migration.
Uh-huh.
And Nori kind of explains to the old man where they go. Like, she lists off different places and like, oh, this place has the apples and whatever. And
it's also like I can't tell if he's learning language because like
he's learning.
But how does he understand the definitions? I don't know. That whole thing is just kind of weird to me because it's like, okay, here's a word, and then let me use all this other language in the same language to describe said word. Well, then why is he starting with simple words, but how does he understand the other stuff? I understand he's a fast learner. Something about this just don't make no sense to me.
He's a fast learner. I want to say he's a fast learner. But, yeah, he's learning the language, and they are continuing into a big forest where the kind of the head Harfoot head hobbit.
Uh-huh. We called him Mayor last time.
Mayor, the hobbits, I guess is his wife or something. She's like, man, this forest ain't never looked like this. It's because of the mystery man or whatever. It's because of the stranger. She says, we need to take the fucking wheels off their carriage and leave them behind.
I know, ain't that some horrible shit?
She was fucking going crazy there for a second.
Yeah.
And we see, I guess it's Nori that finds wolf tracks.
Uh-huh.
And there's, sure enough, they're wolves or wargs or whatever they are. They look like
wolves, but more beastly.
Yeah, they had big snouts.
Very scary.
And they encircle Nori and what was the girl's name? Poppy and someone else. And the stranger comes in and he slaps the ground and it makes a big shockwave and it sends all the wolves flying far across the forest and they get up and run away. But he hurts his hand in the process. He's got this big
I didn't actually see his arm get hurt.
Well, it's because he hit the ground.
Oh.
He takes his hands like Randy Orton used to do and just fucking hits the ground real hard. And he goes to, this might be later, but I'm just going to get to it because there's not, in these 2 episodes, this is kind of all of Nori's stuff. This is it.
There's not a lot.
Because in episode 6, she's not in at all.
Right.
But she sees him in putting his hand in water, like a little puddle of water, and the water is starting to freeze up around his hand, and I guess she thinks like this is bad, so she tries to like pull his hand away, but her hand gets frozen too on his arm, and then the ice breaks off and it makes a little explosion that sends her flying.
Mm-hmm. And
now she's scared of him. She runs away, and he stands up and he kind of has this like menacing look on his face. Like, did you get that vibe?
No,
like
I did not.
The trees are creaking all around him, and he's got this look on his face, like he's kind of halfway smiling, like he's like.
I didn't think he was looking menacing or anything.
I did. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
But speaking of menacing, it looks like there were some people that look real menacing.
Yes.
That I guess found where he landed and could feel things from the crater.
They were dressed all in white. one of the they seemed like there was three of them. They had blonde hair, weird looking eyes, and like hoods over their heads. But I have been watching lately the Nerd of the Rings on YouTube, and I started to watch some of his discussion on this particular episode before Cathy said I had to stop. He did point out that there's one that's holding a plate looking thing, like a tray. And on the back of the tray, there's a quick shot of a constellation, and it's the same constellation that the man wants to find, the mysterious man. So that was interesting.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, but they don't show up in the next episode. They're there. It seems like they're hunting down this man from the sky. So we go back to Numenor with Galadriel and Halbrand. We know that it's kind of official. They're going to send some men to help take back the Southlands. And was it Galadriel? She kind of tricks. She kind of speaks for Halbrand and says, he'll come with us. He will reunite the
yeah,
the
but
men in the
he's
Southland.
actually not too interested in it.
He doesn't want to do it, and he's gotten his guild crest now, and he's working as a smith, and
he seems to be pretty good at it.
Yeah, and they make a remark later on that I didn't get until I watched that Nerd of the Rings episode. I guess he got his guild crest because he sold out Galadriel when she was in the tower. Like, that's how they knew to get her.
What?
Like, when she was in the tower don't you remember she had to like escape the tower?
Yeah.
The guards knew she was there because Halbrand sold her out for a guild crest so he can work. She makes it an allusion to it later on because he's like, "You spoke for me, you sold me out on this," and she's like, "Well, you did the same to me for a guild crest." She says that to him.
I do remember her saying that. I guess I just didn't register with me.
Yeah, it didn't register me till I watched half that episode of the thing. But basically, they're getting ready. What's his butt's daughter, the head of the Sea Guard. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Well, I can't remember really, but we did through the magic of subtitles. We now know the guy's name. His son, who's in the episode, is Isildur, which is a very important character name in Lord of the Rings. I was kind of surprised when that popped up. I was like, wait, the guy who fucking cuts the one ring off Sauron's hand in the battle at the beginning of Lord of the Rings? Like, what? That's him? Okay. I thought that's his place like thousands. I mean, it could actually just be a name that's passed on. He might be an important character.
Probably. That's what I was thinking when you mentioned
and it gets
that.
passed on and on. But anyway, the Sea Guard's captain's daughter tries to tells the queen's was it regent, whatever his name is, Farazan, the guy with the big bushy beard.
Oh yeah.
She tells his son that you need to tell him to stop this because she doesn't want to see this, war happen. And he's like, "Well, you don't listen to me." She's like, "Well, speak louder, bitch." So he confronts his father and says, "Why are you doing this? I never thought my dad would take orders from an elf or something." And like, okay. And his dad's like, "Well, you don't see what's really going on here." Like, he tells him that I want to do this. The queen wants to do this. I want to do this because if we establish a king in the Southlands, they will owe great debt to us. That will give us like a lot of trade, maybe some land, tribute. Like, he's doing this for financial gain, basically, for the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's going to go through with it. And his little son's like, fuck that. And he sneaks onto one of the boats at night, right before they're about to leave. And he like breaks open a barrel full of something, I guess is flammable. Can't be gasoline because it's not really fucking a thing. He also finds a seal door there in the ship too. He's stowing away. He's underneath a blanket or whatever. And they run into each other. And Isildur sees that he's trying to blow the ship up, set it on fire. He successfully does that, and they both get blasted into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
This, what's his butt passes out. He's got his name here somewhere. I think it starts with E. What's his name, Cameron? Farazan's son. Whatever. He passes out for a minute. Isildur drags him to, or swims with him to the port where everyone's there now because they see the big explosion. And they both kind of lie for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, Isildur says the other guy was in a fishing boat near the ship, and the other guy says, "Well, Isildur saved my life." And his dad's like, "Oh, okay, let's fucking clean up the ship." Like it was never addressed again. That whole situation.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were gonna get out of that because I was like, how are you gonna explain yourself out of this one? But it was actually pretty easy. Sounds like.
Kemen is the name of Farazan's son.
And also, Isildur was up there. He's been trying to be a part of this guard. You know, he volunteered to be a part of it. But his dad won't let him. He quit the Sea Guard, and you know doesn't have rank, and so his dad is just like no. But he does end up getting his friend that he wasn't getting along with in the last episode to, well, I don't know. I feel like I'm telling this all out of order.
Yeah, that's why I was watching that video, so I can get it better. But anyway, Galadriel, this is probably way out of order. Galadriel kind of spots the soldiers training for this battle.
Yeah. I think that happens first.
Yeah, she basically says, like, she doesn't say it. Isildur's father says it, like, whoever can cut her skin will be promoted to a lieutenant. Mm-hmm. And so, like, everyone attacks her, basically. She's fighting, like, 6 dudes.
I know. She's so good at fighting.
Yes, and it's basically just a big, long kind of fight scene where it's just like, she just kept one up of them. Like, they would turn around and she'd have her blade at their throat or their back or their chest or whatever. And then they keep fighting again. Then she'd do it again. And then finally, Isildur's friend who hated him with the long curly hair, curly hair, he like cuts her dress, like a little cut on her dress.
Yeah, not even a real flesh one, but didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
He still got promoted.
Yeah, he gets promoted. She says, "Congratulations, Lieutenant." And then she sees Halbrand. He's there watching too, and he like kind of does like a little fancy kip up with a sword, like he kicks it off the ground into his hand so he can hand it back to one of the soldiers. She's like, "I've never seen a smith do that." And then the shit kind of comes to a head with Halbrand and Galadriel because Queen's having her second thoughts about doing this.
Probably because her dad told her not to go.
I think that happens after. I think that happens right before she leaves. Because she's having a second thoughts with Farazan. They're having their little council together. It's Farazan, the Queen, Galadriel, and the Sea Guard captain, Isildur's father, and they're talking about, you know, should we not do this because that boat just fucking blew up.
Oh right.
And Farazan's like, we need to just delay and get the people back on our side, and we'll do it again later.
And Galadriel was like, "Oh, we need to leave right now.
Yeah, we don't have time." And the Queen's like, "Well, I'll make my final decision tomorrow morning, and Halbrand better be here because he wasn't there." she's like, you've been speaking for him too much. He will be deciding factor on this. So, Galadriel goes to see Halbrand in his little smith hut, and she explains to him basically her whole backstory of her brother getting killed and her getting kind of politely exiled from her kingdom because her best friend and her king saw the very evil in her that they were hunting or something like that.
Yeah, basically.
And she says, and Halbrand says, well, you don't know what I've done. Like, a lot of the men that we're about to go rescue have worked for Sauron. Like, they're on Sauron's side. And he's like, you don't know what I've done. And she's like, well, put that in the past. She keeps telling him, you basically can't hydrate with seawater or something. That's not exactly what she says, but she says it like twice in an episode. Oh, or no, she says it once in this episode and once in the second episode. Or the 6th episode. And he says something like, she's like, you don't have no future here. Your future is here. And she hands him back his little pouch. And it's got like a symbol on it. I don't know what in his pouch? I don't know. And she says, the queen's going to summon you tomorrow. All of this relies on you. And so he's, okay. So then we go to Elrond and Durin. Mm-hmm. They're at
some fancy dinner.
A fancy dinner. The coming togethers of the two peoples, the elves and the
dwarves.
The dwarves. Why can't I remember the fucking king's name? Gil-galad. Yes, King Gil-galad. So King Gil-galad and Durin are talking, and
Gil-galad is, I don't know, just something about him. Like,
he has his reasons. You can see why he's acting the way he is once he kind of tells his story. But he basically says to Durin, like, that y'all been kind of quiet for a long time. And now your furnaces are firing up. You're digging deeper than ever. Like, what's going on? Like, he knows they found something. Mm-hmm. And Durin's like, well, the same can be said for you. Like, you're expanding your cities. You're doing this. You're doing that. Like, what do you want from me? And Elrond tries to calm the tension down and try to get conversations go someplace else, I guess. But he says, to Gil-galad, he was like, well, like, for us, time is way different for other people. Like, what we see is unusual behavior as far as time goes. It might not mean nothing to them. You know what I mean? And he said something like he just didn't want to have Durin get offended. And Gil-galad says, well, I didn't think an honest inquiry would offend him. And Durin says, well, I have an honest inquiry. It's like, where'd you get this table? And he's like, what? He's like, the metal for this table, or the stone, this table only grows at a certain depth. And it's very precious to my people. Like, we only use it for statues and tombs.
Yeah.
To honor the dead. He says it's very important. And Gil-galad's like, well, you can take it with you. And that's kind of the end of that with Durin and Gil-galad. And so we find out, no, we don't find out. We go to, the dinner's over. It's just Elrond and Gil-galad now. And Gil-galad's like, tell me the story of something, and the something's roots. Mm-hmm. And it's a story of an elf fighting a Balrog on the top of the Misty Mountains, where a Silmaril is in a tree. And you know what a Silmaril is? I barely know. But I guess there's 3 Silmarils. I could be wrong, but they were these gems created by some of the gods in this world, and I don't know what they do. I just know that there's 3 of them, and there might be. Oh, man, I don't know. Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien universe is so fucking complicated.
I know, there's just way too much going on.
How this one man just fucking spitted all this shit out, but I guess I don't know. He lived when there was not much else to do, I guess. But it's basically one of the Silmarils is in this tree. The elf's trying to keep it safe because he's fighting a Balrog. The elf is pouring his light into the tree, and the Balrog's pouring his hatred into the tree, and then the tree gets struck by lightning, and it sends its roots all down through the mountains. And Elrond's telling that story, and apparently, according to Nerd of the Rings in the video, this story was never told in any Tolkien books. Like, this is all just kind of made up for the show.
Oh, okay.
So Elrond kind of figures out, like, you're talking about Mithril. You're talking about how Mithril was made in this world. And Gil-galad says, I have to know if that's what they found. He's like, well, I swore an oath to Durin. Which basically means yes. Like, he's basically just saying,
that's what pissed me off about that episode, because I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. Like, can't you take context clues? Man,
I guess elves don't have context clues. They have eternal life, is what they have. But maybe not so eternal, because we find out Gil-galad says, well, come, I'll show you something. He shows this tree that's got this goo all over it, basically. And he says that the light of the Valar is fading, and when the light of the Valar fades, all our people will die. And if all our people die, then fucking Sauron's going to take over all this shit, and there'll be nothing left. There'll be no men, there'll be no dwarves, there'll be no elves. And Elrond's still like, I swore an oath to Durin. And he says, basically, he wants the Mithril because Mithril's light never goes out, I guess, and it will help renew the light of the Valar or whatever. So we see. I'm trying to think if we missed anything. We didn't miss anything in Numenor, because basically the council happens at, like, you see a card come to summon Halbrand. He leaves his little bag behind. You just see him put it on a table. Mm-hmm. And then it zooms in on it, and then you see a hand quickly grab it. So he must have, like, had a change of thought. I thought at first someone stole it, but you see him later with it. So.
Oh, yeah. I guess he thought one thing, and then he had a last minute change of heart.
Yeah. And it's basically like, cut to ships leaving, like they're good. They're on their way.
And everybody's wearing fun helmets.
Yeah, except for
Galadriel. Ponytails and wings. Yeah.
Galadriel, or Halbrand doesn't have a helmet either.
Right.
But we cut back to Elrond. He is walking with Durin in the forest back home. They see the elves carrying the giant table that he just he basically lied to Gil-galad about the importance of funny. That stone. He said that his wife just wanted the table. So Durin can kind of see something's up with Elrond. He tries to tell him, show me your burden or whatever. And Elrond's like, a burden shared could either be halved or doubled. It's like, what do you want me to do? And he basically tells him that, my people need the Mithril or die. He said, we'll turn to shadows. Like, and Durin's like, so the fate of the entire elven race is up to me. And they repeat it like 3 times, because I think Durin finds it funny.
I think so too.
I think he finds it amusing that this is all revolving around him. Like, he's not even mad about it. He's like, hey, what do you know? So he basically is like, well, I'll try to convince my father. So it seems like some good's coming their way there. So then we cut to Arendir and Bronwyn. They're in the tower. Still, they know that
the orcs are coming.
They're coming, and they don't know what to do. So Bronwyn gives a big speech.
Yeah, she's like the leader, I guess.
Yes, she says, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but we need to fight. And then
they seemed down, and then they weren't.
Well, was it Walgreth?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
The same guy who was talking all creepy to Theo. Mm-hmm. He says, "I've seen the darkness." Like anyway, he's like, "No, we should. The only way to survive this is to join them. Swear to them." And he's like, "Who's with me?" So basically, half the people leave. Which they keep showing, like, I don't know how many people are there. Seems like sometimes there's 20, and sometimes there's 300.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. It's very inconsistent.
But
it felt like she was talking to 50 and then 25 left. Or maybe 150 left.
Yeah. So they leave, and then I can't remember why, but Theo shows Arendir the sword, the hilt of the sword that he had found. He'd found it. I think now that I think about it, I think he found it at Walgreth's house, like underneath the.
Yeah.
I'm just connecting those dots now. But he shows it to Arendir. Arendir realizes it's a key. He says he's seen this before because it's the tower that the elves were in at the start of the series. And he goes and he pulls off all these vines and stuff that are growing over this giant, like, it's almost like a mural, but it's a statue.
Yeah.
But it's depicting a thing, and it shows, armored, evil-looking person sticking this thing into the ground. And he's like, this is what they're looking for.
I thought it was sticking into a body.
It was in a body, yes. Yes, it was. It was like a
stone
body.
Like
a man. Yeah, it was a body. And he realizes this is what they're looking for. And he's basically like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to stop this? And then Arendir gets this idea, and he looks up at the tower. And, like, that's how the episode ends. Mm-hmm. They have a plan. So what'd you think?
It was good. I mean, shit's starting to go down.
What was your favorite part?
I think I like the Numenor stuff, and I think that's still my favorite storyline, the Galadriel and Halbrand.
Yes. Do you want to tell you something that the Nerd of the Ring guy said in the video?
What?
I guess spoilers for episode 6. We find out that the man that we thought was Sauron is not Sauron.
Well, we think so. No. Unless he's lying. The guy in the Nerd of the Rings kind of thinks Halbrand is Sauron. Nuh-uh.
Yeah. But he also thought that he didn't think. He made a joke about the crazy lady who wanted to take the wheels off the Nori's thing. Maybe she's Sauron. She's evil.
She is evil. That's true.
This is like the first episode I've watched of his little breakdown. He's got a lot of videos. Like, I've been watching a lot of his videos on the lore of Lord of the Rings. And it's really good. I think they're really good. But this is about his first breakdown video of an episode I've watched.
Then why does the other guy look like Sauron?
We'll get to that. Because there is an explanation in episode 6. Sort of. I mean, who knows? I think... I believe there's only be 8 episodes. I believe. I think by the end of season 1, we'll know something.
Who Sauron is?
Yeah, or even if he's still a person that can be seen. You know what I mean? My favorite parts were, I still like the relationship between Elrond and Durin. Like, they only had that one scene in the woods in this one together, and it was basically like, yeah, these guys are cool. I'm glad that Elrond didn't break his oath. And like I'm watching this, and also I guess there was a line in the show that like pissed a lot of like Tolkien freaks out, like when Durin's like, well, you're elves, it takes you weeks to decide whether you want to take a shit, but he doesn't say shit, like everyone cuts him off, but he's gonna say it. So I guess a lot of people were like, even the Nerd of the Rings guy was like, they're using this foul language. It's kind of like that doesn't, it bothered him, but I mean,
but they used foul language,
or there was going to be that, it was gonna happen.
Why?
Because it's Lord of the Rings, they talk all flowery and like it's, I don't know. And it hit me. I'd thought this before, but it hit me again watching this episode and hearing all the different talks and the light of the Valar and the Numenor and Galadriel and like what's the name of the place you're trying to save? Fucking Middle Earth. Like that must have been the first thing he wrote down, because then he's like, I can't call it this fucking dumb shit anymore. I need to come up with some crazier names, because that's the most like he's put middle in front of the place we live. Middle Earth. I don't know. It must mean something written in some deep dark book that I've never read. But yeah, I like the Elrond and Durin stuff. I don't understand people's problem with this show. Like everything I see is kind of negative.
Oh wow!
I don't know. I mean, if there are a bunch of like Tolkien purists out there, I can see them like getting riled up about things, like maybe making up that story about the simmer on the tree and the elf and the Balrog fighting on the mountain or whatever. But it's all made up, all of it. Like none of this actually happened. So I don't know. A degree of artistic interpretation of other arts is to be expected. It's always going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think everything's really pretty. Like all the costumes and the set.
Amazon spent billions of dollars on this.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, like all those orcs, I believe most of them, if not all of them, are all people in makeup. Like not CG.
And they're all pretty unique looking.
Yeah. What I didn't like was the Nori being scared of the guy.
Well, it was just kind of sad.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And I didn't like that there was no follow-up, even in episode 6. And I didn't like his little, like, smile there. Like, he looked kind of evil. I was like, what? I don't like this. But overall, I like the episode. And I kind of like that we're doing them 2 at a time.
Why?
I don't know. It feels... I could see what's going to happen next, but I'm not, like, overloaded. You know what I mean? Like, if they just dropped all 8 episodes at once, I would feel overloaded. But 2 is a nice little... 3 would be too much. 2 is just... Not just enough, but enough for me to feel engorged in the product and not...
And 1 wouldn't be enough?
1 would probably be enough. Because... I don't know. I've been hearing this sentiment lately in the podcast and stuff I listen to. Like a lot of people are fighting back against the Netflix way of dropping content of just like, here it is. Here's all of it. Here's every single episode of the season. Here it is. Watch it right now. And now they're going back to weekly stuff because this stuff, the Rings of Power drops every Friday. 1 episode. So I think I like that better. What do you think? You want everything, don't you? Yeah, I could just tell you're like, you just want to watch it till it's done, and then you forget about it. You've already forgot about something that you just watched an hour ago. Haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, you ready to move on to episode 6?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little break.
Okay.
Cathy Brown's being unprofessional right now. Anyway, we're on to episode 6. So this is the episode where kind of shit pops off.
Yeah.
This is the episode where stories start to merge, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the episode where a lot of the trailer stuff and like images I've seen from the show seem to come from this episode.
Okay.
Specifically. So, I guess the guy who we thought whose name is Sauron, his name is Adar. Yeah. They
called him that before.
Yeah, I can't remember the fucking captain's name.
But you said Sauron had many names, so I was like, okay, well, Adar's one of them.
I don't know. So, they are on the march to the Watchtower.
What'd they say, Namput or something?
Namput. They had like, in the previous episode I meant to say it, but the night before they leave on the boats, everyone's singing. And even Poppy sings a song. There's 2 songs sang in that last one. And in this one, the orcs are basically singing. Because they say, Namput. They say one word, but they have a beat to it and everything. I don't know. If I
you know what it reminded me of?
What?
You know, Wizard of Oz, and they're like, wee, ooh.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Wee, it would sound like that.
It's like even the fucking orcs were singing. I was telling Cathy, like, in the books, everyone sang. I think of one song in the movies. I think Aragorn sings a song.
Aragorn?
Yeah, I think he sings that.
Who's Aragorn?
He's the king.
Oh.
He's like the main character besides Frodo. You remember Aragorn?
Oh, yeah, I do remember him.
You remember the third movie's called Return of the King?
Mm-hmm.
He's the king.
Oh, okay.
He's the king. Anyway. Yes, Adar and the Orc Army, they walk to the tower. They find it empty. And they fan out to try to find the humans. Traitorous fucking slimes of people. And we see Arondir hiding kind of behind a rock up in a balcony. And then the next couple of things that happen, I'm not sure how they happened. Like, basically, he causes the entire tower to fall.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how.
It looks like the tower, or I interpreted it as the tower was having a hard time standing up to begin with.
Look at a bunch of vines around it.
And then it had this, like, a rope or something that was, like, holding it up, or this contraption. And then when you mess with the contraption that was holding it up, it fell.
Well,
that was my interpretation.
I did see one thing he kind of did where he, like, kicked a rock that was tied to a chain or whatever, and it pulled his chain it was wrapped around another, like, beam of wood, and the chain pulled the beam of wood, so it basically closed the doors behind them, so they couldn't leave, and then the tower fell on a bunch of the doors and killed them. And we find out that the people have left the tower. It was just Arondir there. They can see from a distance the tower falling, and they're like, yay! So they have to get back to their town and get ready because they know that's not it. So they get to the town and they start getting it ready. You see, like, it's like a lot of montage of them, like, putting a bunch of arrows on roofs, making a bunch of carts with straw and more other flammable stuff kind of ready to go. And this is when basically Arondir makes his feelings known for Brownwood.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wants to start a little garden with him and her and Theo.
Ain't that the cutest thing?
After the battle, she's like, promise me.
Start a little garden. How precious.
And so, yeah. So he basically gives a little speech where he says, we can't do anything. If this plan's going to work, we can't do anything until every last one of them cross that bridge. And you keep seeing the bridge. They show the bridge a lot. Which
I don't even remember every last one of them crossing the bridge when it actually happened.
Yeah, it seemed like that kind of went out the window.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, I don't know. I'll get to it, but he's like, everyone has to cross the bridge, and though it is night, we'll see another sunrise, and I promise you, if you do this, we'll see another sunrise tomorrow. Like this is like typical rousing speech for a battle, or whatever, and they kind of standing around as the night falls, and they see the lights pop up on the horizon.
It almost looked like the sky or something.
You see one first, and then two, and then all of a sudden it's 10, and it's like, they're coming. So start crossing the bridge, and like before they even done crossing the bridge, you see Brownwyn. She's behind one of the flammable carts, and she's like hitting flint to try to get a fire started, and she can't do it. It's not working. Mm-hmm. So right then I'm like, so they ain't first crossing, and she's gonna do this now?
I know. I was thinking she was doing it too soon.
But she can't get it lit. One of the orcs
wanders over there.
Seemed like someone pointed him to go that way. He goes over to the thing, to the carriage or whatever, wagon, and he sees a woman there, because there's a woman there with Brownwyn, and he like stabs her in the neck or something.
Yeah.
And then Brownwyn screams like, ah! And she stabs the orc, and the orc's carrying a torch. She grabs a torch, throws it in the wagon, it sets on fire, and she cuts a rope, and it goes down a hill, and it misses everybody. It misses all the orcs. Even the orcs say, the idiot missed us, or something like that. And then he turns around, and a fucking another one's heading right for him, and it hits him. So it basically creates this like ring of fire, Johnny Cash style, where they're all in it. I guess that was the whole plan, to get them all in there.
Trapped them.
But immediately one of the orcs just kicks over a stone and walks out of it, and it's just a big fight.
Well, for a few seconds they were trapped, and Arendir was shooting them with arrows from above.
Yeah, everyone started shooting with arrows. That's when everyone popped up out of the roofs, and you see all the arrows that they had put up there, and they start shooting down onto the orcs that are trapped. But like, they just fucking leave. It was so like, he just kicks over a stone and and he's free. And other orcs follow him.
Hey, they did their best.
Yeah, but I was like, what? Like, all that for that to just go, I'm free now. Anyway, Arendir, he's shooting from a roof. He gets attacked by two orcs. They fall down. He kills both of them, and then fucking the mother of all orcs fucking walks up on Arendir. He's like 9 feet tall, and they fight. Yeah. They fight for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, they fight for a while. And it gets a little weird. Like he's got something stuck in his eye.
Yeah, Arendir had a piece of wood. He didn't have a weapon anymore, and he grabs a piece of wood and sticks it in the guy's eye. And the orc don't care. He just keeps fighting. Mm-hmm. And he's choking him over a well. And as he's choking him, Arendir thinks it's a good idea to grab the piece of wood out of his eye. But then the guy just grabs it and tries to stab him in the neck with it.
In the eye. He tries to stab him in the eye.
Yeah. And this whole time, his black blood is coming from his eye and is dripping all into Arendir's mouth.
That's so nasty.
It's all over his teeth. He's got his mouth open all the time. I'm like, close your mouth, dude. But of course, it's a television show. Brownwyn comes from behind and stabs.
Saves Arendir's life.
Yeah, stabs that dude in the back. And they hug or whatever, and they walk around the side of a house, and everyone's like, we win! Like, it's over. Everyone's dead. And Arendir's like, yeah, cool. Then he something bothers him about this, or he sees something he doesn't like.
He sees the blood on another person and
he walks
notices
over,
the color's red, I guess.
Yeah, he walks over to one of the bodies of the orcs. He rubs his hand on his neck. They're all covered in armor and stuff. He rubs it on his neck. He's got red blood. He shows it to Brownwyn, and she's like, no, that's not good. And he lifts the helmet, and it's a human. Mm-hmm. And they find out
they start lifting other helmets and more humans. And basically, they were fighting their own people that had left. They sent them in. The orcs sent them in. Yes. They sent in a few orcs with them, but...
Yes, because there's one alive who tells them, it's like, what do you think we're going to use them for? Like, they came in service of us. This is what we did. And that's when you kind of hear Pet channel, whatever, again, off into the woods. The orcs are still there. Mm-hmm. And is it? I guess now that I think about it, no one else was in this episode. There was no Elrond or Durin or Nori.
Nope. I guess not.
So.
But it's got them on the boat, Galadriel and Isildur. Because I guess they're on the boat, and Isildur is tending to the horses and taking care of their poop, and he comes up so that he wants to see the land.
Yeah.
And apparently elves can see way farther than humans.
Yeah, Galadriel she basically says, what, you can't be up here right now. Like, I thought the soldiers were supposed to stay on deck or whatever, stay under the deck. And he's like, oh, I just wanted to, and he's like, she see the land? She's like, you'll see it soon. He was like, you already seen it? Like, I saw it about an hour ago. What of it? Anyway. And they kind of go over, like, he's like, oh, your elf eyes are really keen. He's just like, not so keen that I have no idea who you are. Like, where'd you come from? And somehow it comes up that he is the captain's son. She wants to know about his mother.
Well, she only, I guess, asked because she said that he looked like his father.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, well, most people say I look like my mother.
That's how it came up.
And that's how it came up.
And then the captain comes up and says, you need to get to work or whatever. Galadriel asks Captain about his mother.
And he started talking about something else.
Yeah. He started talking about something else. Completely different. And then as he's walking away, she's like, she drowned.
Yeah.
And his mother comes up later on, too.
Which is, but it's sort of weird because he's such a sea man. And it's like, gosh, he still loves the sea after.
Yeah, and you see a little conversation between him and the queen, saying they're basically a day away from their destination. Like, they're at the land. It's like a half day through the rivers, then a half day ride to where we need to go.
Yeah.
So that establishes that time frame there, which I thought was, I don't know if it was needed, but
I didn't pay that much attention to
I did, because I was like, okay, we know they're close. So what happens next is not so implausible. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So anyway, the orcs, the real orcs, are in the trees. They're like, it's time to fight. And they rush the rest of the town. But first, all these arrows start flying in to the town. They're basically doing exactly what the humans did to them before. Like, just have them all trapped and just start raining arrows on them. People are getting hit. Somehow Brownland gets hit.
Yeah, like, I didn't see her.
I didn't see it at all. I just saw Arendelle pick her up and saw the big arrow sticking out of her shoulder.
It was a giant arrow.
Yeah.
Right in her shoulder.
So they established earlier that the tavern is their fallback position. Like, that's where everyone needs to go if shit goes down. So they all fall back into the tavern. Where there is a long scene of
yeah. I did not like this scene.
Of Arendir and Theo trying to heal the wound of
she's
Brownland.
Like bleeding so much.
Yeah, she's bleeding a ton.
And they had to pull the arrow out, and it was painful. And then they had to burn it.
They had to cauterize the wound, and Theo had to do this. He didn't want to do it because his mom's basically screaming and he's burning her. Mm-hmm. But rough. It seems like she's dead, but no, she's alive. She takes one big breath and she wakes back up. She's like, So
I thought that was like a little too dramatic. I mean, would she really stop breathing? And two, if she passed out, wouldn't she just be asleep for a while? It was too dramatic.
You're trying to be a script writer now?
It was too dramatic.
It's too dramatic. Cathy Brown, this is a drama show. So anyway, the orcs come into the tavern led by Dar, and he's basically like, you know what I'm looking for. Where is it? And Arendir, like they're all held up, knives up to the necks, all this other stuff. Arendir's like, I will tell you if you spread these people.
But he wasn't really in a good position to say that.
Yeah, I was like, no. And the horses start stabbing people one by one. And it's so funny. It was I almost started laughing, like especially when the orc stabs one of the women, because it's just like he's just like it's just like I don't know, poking a piece of meat with a meat thermometer, trying to find the temperature. Like the sword goes in so easily, and they'll look of shock on their face, and they're like, I'm dead. Like this is not a video podcast, but he's just like like I can imagine Beavis doing it. Is basically what I'm saying. Like,
Andy's been watching too much Beavis and Butthead.
Yes, I have.
Way too much.
Added all those episodes to my play server. It's great. Just watch that. Just do a Beavis and Butthead cast.
No.
Each episode's like 5 minutes long, Cameron.
No.
That means the podcast would be like a minute.
No.
I'll do one by myself then. The Beavis and Butthead cast.
Okay.
The Butt cast. Okay. Got a little mini interruption there. I believe we were talking about the orcs and Adar in the tavern. They're killing people, trying to figure out where this key is at. Adar, he basically says he sees Arendir looking at Brownwind, and he's like, kill the woman next. And that causes Theo to say, no. He somehow knows where it's at. We didn't go over this.
I did see when
but we didn't go over that. Arendir, he says we need to hide this, and Brownwind's like, where? He says no one can know, not even you.
But Theo's watching.
Yeah, he's watching
from
them.
A distance.
Yes, so he knows where it's at. But we didn't talk about it before him. But yeah, the key, the little sword hilt thing. They call it a key. It looks like a sword hilt to me. And it basically becomes a sword.
Becomes a sword.
Like through like we talked about it before.
Yeah,
it happened before. But Theo knows where it's at. It's underneath the stone in the tavern. Probably a bad place for it to be. Like maybe Arendir should have taken a horse a few hours away and thrown it in a tree or something. I don't know. But he gets it. But as he gets his key, Adar does. But as this is happening, you kind of hear the rumbling of the horses. The forces of Numenor have arrived in the Southlands. And they come in with horses, and they fucking tear through these orcs like nobody's business. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I think I said to you earlier in a different part of the show, but there was that whole, when Galadriel's doing the sword fighting with the Knights of Numenor, she's like, this is how you kill an orc. And this is how you get to fight with balance and all this other stuff, and use your feet, not your hands. And I was like, these guys are just killing orcs with big sticks. Like, that's how you kill an orc. You stab them with a big stick. Because that's what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And they knock a bunch of them down with a big chain that they're carrying around with their horses. It's like the cavalry has arrived. Galadriel's there. Halbrand's there. The queen's there. The captain's there. Isildur's there. And they're fighting. They're kicking ass. Everything kind of calms down, and Galadriel comes up to. I've heard that barking made me forget the guy's name. What's his name?
Isildur.
No, Arendir. Sorry, we got Biscuit in the house. Biscuit. Anyway, she goes up there, Arendir, and they speak in their elven language. Like, where's the commander of this force? And he points to Adar, who's getting on his horse to leave. No, scratch that. We missed something else. As Adar is leaving the tavern and sees the forces of Numenor coming, he says, Glenrith, whatever that human's name is, I've got a task for you. Then the battle happens. Galadriel sees Adar on his horse try to leave, or take off and leave. He successfully leaves, and Halbrand and Galadriel follow them. Galadriel, like, whispers into her horse's ear some Elvish word, and she just got speed boosts. Like, they literally, like, double the speed of the shot of the horse running. It's kind of goofy.
Oh, I don't remember that.
She's like, and then the horse.
I do not remember that.
And she catches up with them. Yeah, they catch up with them. It is revealed that Halbrand made it look like he took a different way because he comes up from in front of Adar on his horse and basically causes his horse to fall. And Adar.
But that was confusing because how could he go like a different way?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, he's gonna say something like this, but he never did. I thought he was gonna say, Galadriel, like, how did you get here before me? He's like, I know these lands better than you because
that would make sense.
But it never comes up. But it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, man, he took that horse out.
Yeah, so Halbrand is about to kill Adar.
Mm-hmm.
And Galadriel's like, no, stop.
But yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of an emotional scene. Like, he had some beef with this guy.
Yeah, the guy's like, did I do something to make you sad?
And the guy doesn't really seem to remember him.
Did I do something to
cause
pain to your family?
Did know, or maybe he was just poking the bear or whatever.
Perhaps a woman or a child. Like, he's I think he wants him to kill him. Like,
I know, he was kind of poking the bear a little bit, wasn't he?
So they take Adar back to the village where it's like a big party. Everyone's celebrating and drinking. All the Southland people and the Numenors, they're all intermingling and having a good time, having a feast. Curly-haired dude goes and tells Isildur that, you like the mountains, see all the mountains all around, right? Well, you and I have been picked to like scout out around with Galadriel when she's ready. And Isildur's like, yeah, hell yeah. So we see where Galadriel's at. She's with Adar in a barn, basically. And she's questioning who he is. She says she's heard stories of elves in the past who've turned to the darkness and started to worship Sauron, and they have a name for them called the
Uruks?
No, Morindor.
Moriandor. Okay.
She says they are the first orcs. No, it wasn't Sauron. It was Morgoth, the original evil in Middle Earth. And she said, you're the first part of the first orcs. And he corrects her. He's like, no, Uruk. We are Uruks. And every time she says orc in this conversation, he corrects her every time. Even with a blade up to his neck, he says, Uruk. Like, it was pretty funny. I like that.
It was funny.
But basically, he just says, he killed Sauron. That's basically what he says. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that's what he said, but I think it's just hitting me that that's what he said.
That's what he said. He said that I split Sauron's head in two or something like that. And then
another weird thing about the whole Sauron thing is when half that village left, that war somebody guy, Wargoth.
Waldred.
Yeah.
Waldred.
He thought Adar was Sauron. He called him Sauron.
He called him Sauron. And that was a pretty funny moment too. He's like, I'm here to serve Sauron. Are you Sauron? I don't care. I'll serve you anyway. That was really funny.
Yeah. And then he made him kill somebody.
Yeah, he made him kill Theo's friend. He's like, bonds are only made in blood. And he gives him a knife and he's like, kill this child, basically. It
doesn't show it, but he must have done it.
But anyway, Galadriel kind of goes off on a kind of a racist rant.
It did sound kind of racist.
She's like, I'm going to kill every single one of you.
I'm going to eradicate your kind.
And I'm going to keep you alive just long enough so I can tell you are the last one and this is it. You're dead.
Yeah. It did. The way it came across, it did.
And especially because the whole time before that, Adar's like, you know, are we not deserving of life in a home? And all this other stuff. Like, and she's like, you were made in mockery. And
we're all descendants of the one or something.
Which he is not a descendant of the one. Like, if you follow the actual story, like, I do believe people have theorized that Tolkien was a fucking mad racist. So the whole orc thing kind of, you know, yeah, you can read into it as you will. But yeah, that whole thing was kind of uncomfortable. I was like, Galadriel, I like you. What are you doing?
I know. It was a little uncomfortable.
But then, I can't remember what Adar says, but Galadriel's like, well, what if I just start with you right now? And that's when Halbrand comes in and says, no, don't do it. And they leave Adar to be by himself. And she says, thanks for stopping me from doing that. He's like, well, you stopped me first. And it seemed like they were starting this little relationship between the two. Like,
I couldn't tell if it was like I felt connected to you in battle or like I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell on what level we were talking about.
Yeah, and so then one of the Numorian knights says, the queen has summoned you, Halbrand. And they go to the big feast, and the queen has met with Brownwyn and says, you know, you did a good job here. You know, she's like, I never wanted this. I never wanted to be a leader. She's like, very few leaders did. And I know it's a heavy burden, but maybe I can help ease that burden. And then she introduced Halbrand to Brownwyn. And Brownwyn immediately knows who he is. She sees that little sack with the thing on it. Mm-hmm. She knows immediately who it is. She's like, are you the king I was promised? And Halbrand kind of sits there for a while. And he says yes. And everyone cheers. And then cut to someplace far away, I guess. I don't know where this is at. Maybe at the tower?
Yeah, I think it's at the tower.
Yeah. We see Waldreg.
We have butchered his name.
Yeah.
Or I have. So bad.
Well, I'm looking at it right as Waldreg. He has... No. Sorry. We see Elendil and Theo. Theo's sitting off in the distance. He's not partying with everyone because he's kind of sad that he was going to give up the thing that Adar wanted. And Elendil's like, don't feel bad about it. And he's like, well, it's not that I feel bad about it. I also feel lost. He said that thing was really powerful and I felt powerful. And Elendil still has the key wrapped up in a blanket or like a
And
rag.
Who gave it to him? Galadriel gave it to him.
After they captured Adar. And Adar gives it to Theo and says, well, you should cast it away. So here's what you do. You tell the Numenors to throw it in the sea on their way back home. And you won't have to think about it anymore. And so I think Theo gets it. He immediately knows something's not right with this because he starts to unwrap it.
Probably because he can't feel it.
Yeah.
I bet he could feel... He's got that mark on his arm and everything.
And what's in it is just like a little axe. Like it's the key is not in this rag. So then we cut to Walgreth, and we realize when Adar had this task for Walgreth, the task was to take the key and run off and do what he's about to do, which is stick it in this big hole in the ground and unlock basically these gates to a dam, almost like this. It's holding back all this water. And I thought originally it's like, are they gonna like flood the whole valley here and kill all these people? Like, is everyone gonna die right now? And then you cut to Isildur and his father, and there's like, he's talking about the horses, and like the horse knows they have a bond with you.
Man, that horse could feel something in the ground. That's what I think. I think that's a bunch of bullshit.
And he's like, who taught you that, father? It's like, your mother did. And they do a hug, and you start to hear the rumbling. I'm like, are they all going to die? Like, is this big tidal wave going to come and fucking kill all of them? It's like, no. what happens was we discover why the tunnels have been being dug. Mm-hmm. It's not only because the orcs can't move around during the day. It's because these tunnels are going to take this water, and the water is going through these tunnels, which are underneath the ground in the village, and you see, spouts of water popping up all throughout the village, and people are freaking out. Where's all this water coming from? You see Adar, he kind of like just lays on the ground with his ears to the ground because he wants to hear this. Mm-hmm. And you see the big mountain looming in the distance. And basically all that water is flowing towards this mountain, which is a volcano, and all the water hits the lava inside the volcano. It basically causes this big gas explosion because all that water turned into steam is going to be very pressurized. And the mountain explodes. You see the fire and the lava shooting out, and all these fucking fireballs falling from the sky, and they're killing people in the village, and everyone's running. And you see this big fire cloud heading towards the village, and Galadriel just stands there looking at it. Yeah. Everyone's running, but she stands there looking at it, and the episode basically ends with her getting enveloped by that cloud.
Was it lava too?
I think it was just a cloud. Like a fiery cloud. So what'd you think?
Well, I mean, it was a good episode. I'm trying to think if there was anything I feel like I've got questions about. I guess I thought, okay, did Galadriel just give up? Is she just gonna die right here? Right
No,
now?
She doesn't die.
So,
but this is the start of Mordor. This is how Mordor begins. That's Mount Doom, and there's a reason why Mordor is always shadowed in blackness. And they call back. It's not a callback, but they talk about it earlier. We didn't mention it, but Adar is talking to one of the orcs, and Adar can stand in the sun. He tells the orc to come over to him. He says, "Let me see your arm," and the orc pulls out his arm, and immediately starts like burning in the sun. And he talks about one day this won't happen to you because the sun will be gone, basically. And this is the start of that. This is how Mordor is started, because they're going to black out the sun in this area so the orcs can run around.
But he also said that he was going to miss it.
The sun? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's not. Well, I don't know what he is yet. Still a lot of questions to be left answered. But yeah, I really liked the episode. It was very interesting that this was the first episode that was kind of one place centric. Like, there was some shots on the boat, but very quickly the people on the boat are on the land, and it's just a lot of fighting. It's just something we haven't seen a lot of.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we'll be back in another 2 weeks to talk about I guess 7 and 8 at that point. This is 5 and 6, so it'll be 7 and 8. It might be the last one. What do you think?
Sounds good.
You gonna say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Peace out.